With static routes, we had the ability to create a default static route. In the case of where we had a stub network, something was hanging out, maybe a branch office someplace, where we didn't want to have to configure all the internal routes that we knew about, we could just say, hey, look, router, if you don't know where you're going, send it back to the corporate data center. In the case of an ISP, we might want to do the same thing. I don't want to have to create static routes in my company for all the routes of the internet. So we would use this default static route to get us in the direction of our edge router. Well, what about the dynamic routing protocols? What if we're running RIP? Can we still do that? And the answer is sure. I still need to create a static route, maybe from my edge router into where the ISP is. However, I don't want to have to go to every router and point back, and I want it to be able to dynamically learn if it needs to. So in dynamic routing, we have the ability to create that one static route and then propagate that to all the other routers. Let's take a look. So I've added a little ISP cloud to our router infrastructure that I've been using in the past and put a router out here. So for us, the router right here would be considered my edge router. This is the router that needs to default out to the internet for everything else. So my routers are still running RIP. I haven't changed anything. So I have dynamic routing protocols running here, and R2 knows about the 10 network, R1 knows about the 30 network, but no one knows how to get to the ISP. So what I want to do is go in here, and I've created this as the 192.168.40 network, and this is 40.1, and this is 40.2. So what I want to do is create a static route on R2 that says, hey, R2, if you don't know what to do, send a packet to the ISP router over here, which should actually be labeled R3 to make our life easy for us. So if I reference R3, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Wouldn't want to confuse anything here. So there's R3. So how do we do this? Well, we'll go into R2 and create our static route. My enable password was Cisco, conft, and I want to create a static route. Now, before I do that, let me just show you that show IP route, that I only have my RIP learn routes. I do have that new 40 route that was connected, and that's the route that goes to the ISP. And if I in fact look at R1 and console enable Cisco show IP route, I have my RIP learned routes. But right now, if R1 were to get a packet for 74, 75, 76, 77, it wouldn't know what to do with it. It would drop that packet and send an ICMP destination unreachable message back to the original client. R2 is actually going to do the same exact thing right now. This was R2's IP route table. If R2 gets a packet for 74, 75, 76, 77, it's going to drop the packet and respond back to the client, your destination is unreachable. So how do we fix that? How do we get any unknown packets like something in Google out? We're going to create that static route. In our case, we would do an IP route 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0.0. That's my catch-all. Hey, if you don't know what to do with it, and where do we want it to go? 192.168.40.1 in this case, as identified as my next hop. This is 40.1 out here at R3. If I look at my IP route table now, there's my static route. What about R1? Show IP route. R1 still doesn't know what to do. We're not propagating that route. We still have to tell R1, just because we created a static doesn't mean it's already going to go every place. We want to propagate it out. We will use the default information originate command to propagate out the fact that we are the path. So in global config, I will say default information, default information originate, default information originate. Why isn't it typing? Hold on one moment. Default, sorry, that's why. Default information, really? Default, oh, it's part of the RIP routing protocol. Router RIP, default information originate. There we go, perfect. Show run. There's my information right where it's supposed to be. And now RIP should be propagating the fact that we have that default route configured. And if I go over and look at R1, go back and do my show IP route again. There, learn through RIP is my default route. And again, we can see up here now it says gateway of last resort. So that is that information. So now if router 1 gets a packet for 74, 75, 76, 77, it says, I don't know where that is. I should send it to 20.2 because that router will know. When 20.2, which is R2, gets it, show IP route here. When router 2 gets it, says, I don't know where that goes. I should send it to 40.1, and 40.1 is the ISP router. Whoops, I erased the ISP router. I erased the cloud, but this was the ISP router out here. So this is the default. What's the ISP router going to do with it? Whatever they have configured. Maybe they know the routes, maybe they've learned BGP, maybe they've pulled it in, or maybe they'll have default routes as well. At this point, I don't care. IP routing is hop by hop. As long as I got it to the ISP, then they will do their job, and we don't have to configure all the routers. The default information, the default route works great.